You fill in the fingernails that way. If I'm drawing the stripes on his arms, I wouldn't make them physically wrap around. I'd actually make them kind of bizarrely flat. So again, it felt like a drawing that Owl might have made. It was actually very liberating to animate that way because you don't have to worry that the circle is perfect. We actually animated the Backson in ink on paper, and then the effects artists found ways to actually translate that into the chalk texture. I had done some experimenting with it in Photoshop and determined, well, if I animate this with a smooth ink line with a certain marker, then that can be translated, through these steps in Photoshop into a chalk texture, and they kind of adapted that, for the final look of the film. So, totally different from constructed rabbit. It's like one of these things is not like the other. But it's a kind of thing where that's one thing that's really fun about the hand-drawn medium. You can play with graphics. You can do different things that don't necessarily have to be literal, but are still fun to watch. Anybody got any questions?
The rabbit being based on a real rabbit, does he move differently than the other characters? Does he have a little more like stretch and squash or something? Because he's not plush.
You're right. He does, and so does Owl. They move more like anthropomorphic animals. Yes, there's a little more squash and stretch. If you look at Mark Hen's animation on Winnie the Pooh, for example, he animates his walk with very stiff legs because he is a stuffed bear, and so he has to show that through his drawings. With a character like Rabbit, yes, he's more of a real rabbit, so you can animate him more fluidly because you're not trying to convey that he is a stuffed toy. And all the characters fall somewhere within there. Tigger's a stuffed toy, but he's got an internal anatomy that allows him to bounce, and it feels like there's springs inside of him.